You might be wearing a brand new shirt. I'm wearing the world's oldest linen shirt. I've had this for like 10 years. It's finally given up the ghost and starting to fray around the collars. It's so
It doesn't look frayed. It looks new.
Oh, good. That's because I've got the blur set on the webcam, so you can't see and it's got holes in the elbows where I lean on bars and stuff. But it's so old and soft. It's like putting on like some adult-sized baby clothing. It's super soft. I very enjoy this thing. Anyway, welcome back to the Projex Academy Podcast. We were just talking and said it's about time we did one. What should we talk about? Said Dave, and I said I don't know. And then we started talking about bacon sandwiches and the merits of ketchup over brown sauce. Got completely distracted, and I said, "Come on, let's just launch the podcast, figure it out while we go, unscripted." And since you've recently sat your PRINCE2 Practitioner Exam, and we get a lot of people leaving tickets or coming to the website and just talking about doing PRINCE2 and the exam side. How about you tell the tale of how it works and what a proctor is and how you did it from cradle to grave, and I'll just shut up and drink my tea and listen to you.
All right, and interrupt me whenever you feel the wish.
Roger that.
Okay, hi everyone. Yes, as an accredited training organisation, we've got the option of either taking people cert who own PRINCE2, own paper, and own training. But I decided that since I've been doing PRINCE2 for a long time, I'd create my own. So here at Projex Academy, I created a PRINCE2 training course for the foundation exam and for the practitioner exam. And if you become a member, you get them both. Okay. And so because of that, I needed to get my accreditation, our training course accredited, and it's audited by PeopleCert, and they really are quite stringent. But I'm pleased to say it was passed with flying colours. So in concert with that, well, it makes sense. I'll go and sit the exam, which was a humbling experience. Someone who claims righteously that I've been teaching Prince since about 1997, to have yourself under the hammer, it's unnerving. Anyone who says they enjoy exams are telling porcupines. So anyway, that's what I did. And I felt the need to perhaps not teach you or show you what the exam syllabus is, because you'll find out from us when you buy our course, but rather some of the things that either I did beforehand and I realized was a good thing in preparing for it, or B, that I found out when I was taking the exam I should have done more of this or something else. So I just want to share in a pretty much random order those points. Now, as you may know, PeopleCert have got this set up as what they call remote proctor. So here you are, much like this podcast, you'll be looking at a screen, talking to a remote individual who will be invigilating your exam taking session. And they have to make sure, of course, you haven't got any friends telling you all the answers. They want to see what your room is and make sure that it's acceptable to them. It's a bit of housekeeping. But then how it works. And what you do is the invigilator starts the exam and you get your full screen with questions all the way through, which you answer one at a time. And also, of course, you have a scenario. And there's another button top right. You click on that and it reminds you what the scenario is. And that was an area where in 2020 vision, I thought, I wish I'd done more of this or that. And that's one of the things I want to share with you. So first of all, with an ATO like ours, when you invest in our membership for the PRINCE2 Practitioner and the Foundation, you'll actually get 2 sample papers, the official ones. And looking back, I could see that there is a better way to go through those. Now, yes, of course, you'll be able to take those sample papers, find out whether your answer was correct or whether it's wrong, etc. One of the things I wish I'd done more of, and therefore I wish you would do, and that's that about a week before you're due to take your exam, spend a few days going back to those sample papers, even if you've already tried them. But this time, when you take it or answer each question, find out what the wrong answers are and go through why the wrong answers are wrong. And that's a great learning, because what you're trying to do is get inside the head of the examiner. One of the techniques I've been teaching for a long time is the fact that most of the questions will be a setting of a scenario or situation, and then A, B, C, or D, or even E as options, and you've got to choose the right option. And it's the concept of dummy answers, where one of the answers, and maybe more than one, will be correct in and of itself, but doesn't answer the question. Again, I found myself applying this because I've been thinking about it for such a long time as I've taught this, is when every time I look at a question, I go, okay, read it through. Yep, got it. What are the options? A, B, C, D, whatever. Let me look at A and B and see is there one there that looks right? And that's where you can fall into a trap, because they might have a question that's talking about risks. And one of the answers talks about, I don't know, who's responsible for recording the risks or something, but it has nothing to do with the question. So, and you go, oh, I know, that's normally project support, because that particular option is a dummy. It's right in and of itself, but it doesn't answer the question. Just like your teacher always used to say when you were a little kiddie, read the question. There's some things which have been around for a little while, and one of that I've learned is that when it comes to risk questions, the examiner's pretty keen on the risk responses. There's 7 responses, if you remember. Again, I'm not going to turn this into a tutorial, but go to the page in the Prince manual, I5, something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Go to the PRINCE2 manual and read.
I know you've been studying too hard when you're remembering page numbers in the
Well, you just do. Honestly, yes, it makes you realise, go and get a life. But whatever the page is, I think it's 155. Go through the risk responses and get used to saying, if they give you a scenario, they'll say, which risk response is this? And if you just read through it quickly and, yeah, got it. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I can see what prevent does. Yeah, it won't go in. You've got to start to think about, if you saw something written down, which response would it be? Also, what's new, and again, having taken the exam, during the exam, I realised I wish I'd taken a little bit more time looking at the management products. Now, in the old version, there was Appendix A at the back of the book, and it had a list of all the management products. Now, in PRINCE2, there's 2 types. There's specialist products, which is obviously unique to a particular project. But your management products are anything that helps you manage a PRINCE2 project. They'd be pretty standard, wouldn't they? The thing is, in the latest version, number 1 is you'll find some new management products in the practices. Remember, it used to be called themes. They're now called practices. And the examiner, in marking the exam, the marking scheme, they put a whole lot more weight on you answering the practice questions. So you'll find more of those in there, and they're generally harder. The processes are still important, and you'll get process questions, of course. So learn the management products. Go through and remind yourself, or rather inform yourself, what's under each of them, what will it have and what it isn't. And on that tack, there's a new product called the project log. Now, when I first started looking at the syllabus and getting ready to start designing my course, I thought, let me open up the good old manual and find out what the project log is. And there seemed to be some disconnect. And what I realized is that the project log consists of some registers and some logs. In SU, starting up a project, that's pre-project, that's where the project log is first set up, but it's only populated with the lessons log and any lessons that you've learned, and the daily log, which is like the project manager's diary. All the rest of the registers are added in the initiating a project process. So knowing that little thing, when you start looking at when you're watching our training or when you're using the manual, just remember that it starts its life pre-project, but only partially populated. Failure, feedback, yes. Look for keywords in the questions. I've already said it's quite important. One of the biggest feedbacks from the examiners, and I know about that, even though I have no idea what the questions will be, is that you don't read the question, where the answer you've chosen is wrong because it does not answer that particular question, or it doesn't answer why that question is being asked.
What do you mean by that? Are the questions multiple choice answers?
But yeah, there's 2 sorts. There's what's known as matching questions and standard ones. It'll either be setting a scenario in several sentences, and then question A, B, C, and D, 4. And it's one of those. There's another type that has the first 2 questions, A and B, says, yes, the scenario that's being, or the question that's being asked is correct because of Y. And B will say, yes, it's correct because, and the answer will be B or something, or whatever. So you've got 2 yeses and 2 nos. But other than that, it's just the 4 answers, and you've got to choose one of them. But here's something I do want to talk about. Again, in our training, you'll get the list of all of the syllabus at the start of each module, as we call it, as you go through. And there's something called Bloom levels, BLOOM, Bloom levels, called BL, in this case, BL3 and BL4. BL3 is not too hard at all. It's where you use your experience to apply your knowledge and come up with the right answer. But BL4 is harder because it's where you need to analyze some situation. And BL4 questions are probably, if you don't quite make it, it's because you've got those wrong, because they tend to be the harder ones. So be aware of those. Bloom level 4 are the ones where you need to work on. And Bloom level 4 is where you're analyzing something rather than just how would you apply this. But again, I won't go into any more detail than that, otherwise I'm teaching you rather than telling you what I learned. The other thing in the good old manual, here's mine here. I just wanted to show you that what I've done is I've put all of you're allowed to put little markers in. Always put them down the outside, even if they overlap, as you can see here. Don't ever put them up here or worse, down up here, because you'll be trying to get them out. It's difficult to get them out and you're trying to pull it together. Whereas here, you can just grab it and lift it up immediately and get access to whatever you want. So in here at the beginning, again, I won't go guess the page, but you've got the 4 scenarios, 4 of them. And in your live exam, it will be one of those scenarios that you'll have. So wouldn't it make sense to learn those scenarios pretty thoroughly? Yes. You won't know which one. I think I got scenario 2, but your exam might be 3 or something else. Who knows? And you also get the opportunity, I can't even find a bit now, is you can take in a couple of pieces of blank paper, which you show to the invigilator that they're blank. And as you go through the exam, you can make notes. And one of the what I recommend is that in the first few minutes when you're starting the exam, put in columns, because each scenario will have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, plus some extra information. So you've got a fairly good understanding of what stage you're in. One of the ones I nearly got tricked out on, but luckily I recovered, is that one of the questions said, the project is in stage 3, and it set a little scenario, and then here's the answers A, B, C, or D. What they didn't mention is that stage 3 was the final stage. And if I hadn't have twigged that stage 3 was the final stage, as it happened, one of the answers was to do with closing a project, which you would use in the final stage. So reminding myself, it's the third one, it's the final one, it then focused me on, is there anything that's relevant to closing a project? But there we go, that's what I got out of that. The other thing, again, be aware of this, don't poo-poo it. The people element, a new chapter in the book, is new to PRINCE2. Now, if you've ever been like me, a real project manager, managing people, then you probably know a lot about the topics that you'll cover, like communication, how to set up teams, and what have you. But please read through the people section, 15 pages or something, one through the other. Get familiar with what the elements of the people section is. And the other thing to remember, fairly obviously, is that it's closely aligned with one of the practices, what used to be called themes. And it's not the organizing theme, like it used to be called, but organization theme. It's the organizing practice. And that's, as you might remember, if you've looked at PRINCE2 before, it's all about the structure, the project board, different levels, the roles, senior user, senior supplier, yada, yada. You can well imagine they're quite closely related. So when you're revising, make sure you're getting thoroughly familiar with the people section and also the organizing practice, because they do fit together quite well. The other thing that I started to say is that in the old version, you had the management products and they were all in Appendix A. In this new version, you've still got an Appendix A, but for example, in the practices, in the risk practice or the people or the organizing practice, they'll actually have at near the end of that particular chapter, examples of key management products related to that, like the communication management approach in the people bit. Don't poo-poo it. Don't go, oh, yeah, got it. Oh, I've got it here if I need it. Go through it. Make sure you understand the sections within it, because you could have a question on it. My tip to you, make sure you're familiar in the practices with all of the special management products that you'll need to come across.
Hey, something that springs to mind, Dave. So once you sit this exam and you'll now redo it annually or a period of time to keep your certification?
No, that's a great question. Not necessarily. If you're smart, once you've passed your exam, you'll join PeopleCert, pay so much a year. I can't remember what it is now, because as an ATO, we pay a different amount, as you might imagine. And you can earn, I'll call them brownie points, which is an old English word. In other words, you'll get credits. If you get, for example, you get it for about as you come up to the end of 3 years, if you've been getting these credits, like studying, that counts. Remote, less taking self-study courses, that counts towards the credits. So you won't have to retake your exam. Okay, so there's that's quite an important point to remember. I would definitely, whatever it is a year, 180 quid a year, I don't know, 100 quid, whatever, join up. It's well worth it. Plus you get lots of good information from people. So they're a great company to work with, by the way. They've done a great job in taking over PRINCE2, in my opinion.
Okay, terrific.
The other thing, again, I don't want to teach you, but there's a new kid on the block called sustainability. And quite right too. It's because the PRINCE2 manual's been updated to reflect the direction that project management has now gone into, and looking at a more mature approach as to what's relevant to project management today. And anyone that works for any organization, or even themselves, will know about sustainability and how we're looking at making sure the products are easy to maintain, to service, using the right approaches, the right materials, and so on and so forth. But sustainability is now in the business case. So again, little tip, go to the business case, notice what's meant, how you focus on sustainability. It's also a new tolerance. In the old version of PRINCE2, you had 6 performance metrics, if you will, bringing it in on time, costs, quality, risk, benefits, and scope. Nearly forgot it there. But now you've got 7, which is sustainability. Now, therefore, you need to make yourself familiar with what sustainability is in terms of the performance of the project. Plus, it's now a new tolerance, of course. So instead of having 6 tolerances, you've now got 7 tolerances. Again, make sure you don't let the other one drop off the cliff, okay? And just talking about management products, one that I do want to mention, most importantly, is the good old product description. Now, a product description is a management product. And what you do in PRINCE2 is that when the project manager is preparing the product descriptions, doing the planning, ready to give out the work packages, you have a work package description now, which you didn't used to have, which is great, because that's what the project manager does. Is here's a description of the work package, give it to the team manager, who then has to shake hands and go, yeah, got it, yes, we can do it. Inside there will always be at least one product description, because otherwise, if you're doing work, what are you doing? What are you making? There must be one product description. But the new product description, now, if you look at it, doesn't just say quality criteria. It talks about the functional and non-functional specs. And again, read up on that. Make sure you know the difference between one and the other. So make sure you're familiar with the product description itself. And the other thing that I learned in retrospect and wish I'd done more prep was that sprinkled throughout the manual, I'm sure I can find one quickly and see if I can flash it in front of you. There's one right at the bottom of that page. Let me just see if this comes across. If it does. What page is this? This is page 94. Just grabbed it at random. It's got
high-tech version.
It's got right there in the green text, scenario : correct?
Representation of the project board.
That's it. Those little boxes are sprinkled throughout the practices. And guess what? They're showing you how PRINCE2 can be tailored. Now, when you're reading the manual, when you're studying, it's very, just like Nick's doing at the moment, yawning his head off. It's like, oh, okay, it's interesting. So this is how you might apply it to a scenario. Move on, give me some meat. But in actual fact, those scenarios are gold dust, because if you look at them, they're showing you how you can tailor PRINCE2. And in my real exam, I got deja vu when I looked at some of the questions, 1 or 2 of them, several, in fact, half a dozen more. And I realized after the exam, I know why that felt familiar, because they're using one of those scenario things to actually come up with a question. So don't run them up, go through the whole lot, and only for the practices, because they'll be quite useful. The other thing, which I knew prior to the exam, and it helped me immensely, was at the end of each process, of which there's still 7, you have something called a RACI table, sort of who's responsible, who needs to be informed, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm not going to teach you this, but here's the thing. They've got questions in the exam. They'll set a little scenario in the question, and it'll say, who should also be told about this? And you go, project board, go to the little RACI table, and it'll say, who needs to be kept informed? I in RACI is informed. And it'll be one of those there. You go, that's the answer. So make friends with your RACI table. You don't have to memorize them, but when you see a question that talks generally about who should be informed about this, or told about this, or kept in the picture, or who else would it be useful to talk to about this, whatever the language they use, flowery as you like, it's the RACI table that might give you your extra mark that you wouldn't have got otherwise. So I think from memory, that's about it. There's probably some things I've missed, but don't forget the new pieces, the people piece, sustainability are important that you really get to grips with. But the old ones that you think, oh, well, that's similar to the previous version. No, there'll be differences in it, like in the management products.
And it's worth mentioning that if you simply Google or use the search engine of your choice, Projex Academy mock exam PRINCE2 or sample exam PRINCE2, Dave's created several interactive exams that we have on the website for free, 60, 70 questions and answers, and you can test your mettle and sit those exams just on the screen. It asks you the question, gives you multiple choice. They're real questions from the PRINCE2 Foundation and Practitioner exams.
Our exam
just
simulator.
To give you a feel of what it's going to be like. Well worth sitting those multiple times before going and taking your real exam with PeopleSat.
Yes, thank you, Nick. Absolutely. That's very, very valuable. It took me a long time to get all those and put it into our application we use to make these quizzes up. So it's online, it's live, and the first 60 totally free. If you're already a member, you get another 60, which is 120 that you can play with. But, yeah.
Excellent stuff, Dave. Well, we're coming up close to half an hour of you burbling on about the PRINCE2 exam. So let's wrap this up, try and keep these episodes under 30 minutes so they're bite-sized people to listen to. And what should we talk about next time? Any ideas? We haven't even spoken about this. We've got to keep this rocking. We try and do an exam, a podcast every week or every couple of weeks. Always going to be on project management methodologies and topics. Well, not always. Maybe we'll just do one talking about the merits of a bacon sandwich at breakfast instead.
Well, and we do have a ticket system on projects. Now, that's not really for this purpose, but if you went on and raised a ticket saying, hi, I'd like to learn about this, or could you consider this, or here's a few ideas that I'd like to learn about, then drop the ticket. We'll actually answer it and say, yes, thanks for that, and we're either going to do something about it or we're not. But any good ideas, that would be well received. The other thing is...
just go to projects.com, look for support. It's always at the footer of every page as a support link. You click the support link, you'll go to the ticket system. You haven't got to enroll on the website or anything. You can just post a query and just call it podcast suggestions or topics for podcast. And that'd be a great way. That will help us because we can get some information on what to talk about and help you because you're getting answers to any questions that you have. So, sorry, Dave, back to you.
That's right. No, I think you said the lot. That's good. I'm done.
Excellent stuff. Well, it's good timing because I've just run out of tea. So
ditto.
I'm going to go and stick the kettle on and recharge myself. And in the meantime, I'll see you next time.
Well, it's 12:30 here. That's gin and tonic time for me. Yep.
Perfect.
As Nick said, see you next time. Bye for now.
All right, Dave. Thanks, man. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.